This one feels super thin to me. It's based on one source. There could be a lot of factors in here. Maybe they were told not to ramp up production as high. It could mean they're getting indications that the 10S is more popular than they initially thought the 10R was going to be. So there are a lot of factors that could be baked into here. And again, I think Jim Cramer was on earlier this morning, and he just said did it smell right to him, basically.
Nehal, the timing of this report, though, couldn't be worse for Apple's stock price, given that it follows Friday's disappointing earnings guidance, but as well as that, the change in how they're going to report going forward, making many analysts think that they're trying to hide the decline in volumes of iPhones going forward. Well, what do you make of that change? And do you think it's fair that the share price has sold off so much in the last couple of days?
Right. So, first of all, the key thing that we need to know as investors on Apple is how is that iPhone unit install base growing, or is it growing at all, right? We didn't get that information in the first place, but getting unit data gives you a view into whether or not that's going to happen or not. So the withdrawal of unit information on a forward basis, now we don't know whether or not it's going to happen or not. What we did get on the last earnings call was that the overall device install base is growing double digits, but that's likely largely due to wearables. We think that the iPhone install base is growing low single digits. Now, going back to the data point that we just had here today, I agree with Steve that you can't put a lot of stock into these data points, especially because you usually have no baseline to go off of, right? But the one data point that was in there was that there was talk of laying off workers on the production lines, which then does signal that you are going to have year-over-year declines, because you're not going to be laying off workers unless if you're actually going to have year-over-year declines. So that is a perspective into, hey, look, iPhone units are likely going to be declining year over year in a pretty significant way, maybe 5–10% year over year. What does that mean for the install base? We don't quite know, but my suspicion is that it's probably going to be growing low single digits.
So just to play devil's advocate, if the whole premise, it sounds like, that you're saying, and you're not alone here, is that they're not going to give us unit growth, and therefore it must be slowing and it's not doing well, and in fact that's what's happening. Haven't they just proved this quarter that happened? They barely grew unit growth with iPhones, but as long as average selling prices go up and they can come up with new flashy gadgets like Steve has to get people buying, they can drive record profit and revenue.
So how long do you think you can keep on increasing prices?
Well, it's not just about increasing prices of the hardware. They're building services around it. So part of the story they're trying to tell, on top of saying, okay, we sold this many iPhones, we made this much money off each iPhone, what they're saying is we're packing in more. They're adding different services like that news subscription that's coming next year, video on top of that. They're dumping $1 billion into original programming. All of this is going to be a way to drive more revenue out of each iPhone user.
And it's also, I guess, with the change in how they're reporting it, Steve, an attempt to try and continue that narrative they've been pushing for a long time, that we are a services company, we're not just a hardware company. But how close are they to truly achieving that, regardless of how they report the amount of iPhones they sell? How close are they to achieving it and to the market actually believing it? Will this not take quite a few years?
It could, but what we're going to find out starting when they report for this quarter is the margins on those services. So we're going to get, maybe we're getting less data on unit sales, but we're getting more data on how much the margins are in this services
You don't buy
business.
the services argument?
Well, look, services now, I think somewhere around 20% of revenue, so it's still a pretty small percent, but it's been growing as a percent of revenue, and we have been hearing the narrative that it is a higher margin business, which it must be, otherwise they wouldn't be saying that story. But look at the overall gross margins. It hasn't been going up. And then on the other point there that you're saying, Steve, is that, look, they're bundling in more services and trying to drive up ARPU. So first leg has been to drive up ARPU by higher price ASPs, right? Now the next leg, maybe 2 years out, is that you're going to bundle in more services. It's not even clear if we're going to get that as a standalone service or if it's going to be bundled in directly into the phone. Remember, they said that they are going to now be including the effective price of iCloud, Siri, and one other app into services when it was traditionally actually already priced into the iPhone. What about the video and the news? Is that going to be actually embedded in the price, but then they're going to report it in the services? And is that going to be part of their ASP increase? But at the end of the day, if your units are declining year over year, but your revenue is effectively constant, then you're basically getting more revenue per user. Your revenue is flattish, but your annuity base is declining, right? That's the risk. Now, I don't think that's actually happening, but that is the risk.
Nehal, just quickly, you've downgraded your price target and the rating to hold, but still above the current price.
It's modestly above the current price, 5% upside. So that, to me, that plus or minus 15% is a hold rating.
Okay.
And there's a blue phone now?
There is a blue phone. We got the, this is the 10R. This is the one everyone thinks is going to be the big seller. It packs a lot of the technology from the the 10 and the 10S into a cheaper form factor. It's got these cool colors on it.
I never get the colors because you always put a cover on it anyway.
No, but
Exactly.
you can have a clear case.
They have clear cases now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
but
your
you
cover
just-
so that your color shows. That's
Or
what
you
I've
just
read.
buy a colored cover. I want
Yeah.
mine to stay
That's
black.
not as
It could be any
pretty.
color you want. Then.
Yeah, exactly.